So what are some effective ways to avoid getting robbed in Colombia? Hi all, I'm Esmeralda and you're watching my travel channel where I talk all things Colombia. So in my last video I talked about some of the ways you can stay safe in Colombia and some telltale signs to look out for to help you determine the safety of any given area. So if that interests you, you can check it out via the link in the description. But today I wanted to continue on this topic with some tactics I've actually come up with myself that you can use to avoid getting specifically your phone stolen, along with some last ditch advice that might help you get it back if it does get nicked. This advice actually comes directly from my own experience of getting mugged and basically what I would do in retrospect to avoid it from happening to begin with, now that I know how things go down. I wanted to tackle this in order of importance though, so I'm going to actually start by recapping some general advice I mentioned in the last video. See, as obvious as it might sound, really the most effective way to avoid getting robbed in Colombia is by avoiding the wrong places and not being anywhere at the wrong time. As I mentioned in the last video, you can generally tell if a place is safe by a combination of signs, namely the expense of the buildings and infrastructure around you. Obviously, the more expensive, the more likely it is to be safe. The amount of people around you, generally the more the better, and the type of people around you. If you ask all three of these questions whenever you're out, you can generally determine the safety of any given area fairly accurately. On top of that, you want to remember that whatever risk there is will grow significantly when the sun goes down, so just try and be extra careful if you're out at night. I'd say generally at nighttime, unless you're in a reasonably safe area, it's probably best to get an Uber or taxi if you're able to. Personally, when I was mugged, it was because I was walking back to my apartment at nighttime and walked onto a street that was dimly lit and didn't have many people outside of homeless people and thieves. The last bit of advice I'll recap from the last video though is a popular idiom in Colombia, no des papaya. If you've watched a lot of Colombian videos, you may have heard this before, but it essentially means don't flaunt your valuable items. Now, I'm not saying that you can't ever use or reveal these items in public, but I am saying, based on the previous factors I mentioned, you want to be diligent about it. For instance, if you're in a commercial district like say La Zona Rosa in Bogota in the middle of the day and there are regular people all around you, then yeah, you'll probably be fine having your phone out for a bit. But if you're out on Avenida Ciudad de Lima at 9 PM, it's probably best to keep it in your pocket, although to be honest, I'd avoid walking on that street at all as I got mugged even though I wasn't showing anything. Anyway, that was the general advice, but before I go on, I wanted to make a disclaimer, and that is that a lot of thieves in Colombia are actually a lot more organized and clued up than you might think, as it's quite likely they've had a lot of experience robbing people before. This is because most of these thieves don't rob people to keep the items for themselves, but to sell it on the black market. And if this is their primary source of income, they've probably been mugging people quite a bit and have developed a skill for it. Now, whilst thieves are professional at what they do, on the other hand, you got to remember that they're still street criminals, which likely means that outside of what they do, they're not exactly the most educated people with a lot of depth. Like, let's face it, if you've resorted to mugging people's belongings as a full-time job, you probably don't have a wise, considered outlook on life. As streetwise as these thieves are, their skills come from tried and true repetition, not from some ingenious lateral problem-solving ability, and so this gives you an upper hand if you go about defending your stuff in a way they don't expect. With that in mind, I wanted to offer some tips I came up with for how you could do this, specifically when it comes to your phone. So something I noticed when I got mugged is that the thief didn't appear to be aiming to my phone from the get-go, as he didn't know that I had it on me. Instead, he was just shouting, "Give me money," and eventually I realized that this wasn't just a beggar and he wasn't gonna let me go until I gave him something. So I reached into my pocket to pull out some cash, and it was only then that he saw the edge of my phone and grabbed it before helping himself to my jeans pockets and emptying them out. Now the question is, would he have kept pursuing me after I gave him the cash if he never saw my phone? Maybe not, but let's say he did. Let's say he still went and dug his hand into my jeans pockets and took everything out. Now I should mention at this point that he wasn't really feeling around for any item in particular, he just grabbed everything in my jeans pockets as quickly as he could and then went on his way. It wasn't until he was walking away from me though that he sorted through it all and threw back the stuff he had no use for. So remembering how all of that just went down, what if I didn't have my phone in my jeans pockets at all? Well, he didn't bother searching my jacket's pockets or anything else, it was just a quick lucky dip into the jeans pockets and then he was off. So that brings me to my first bit of advice: try keeping your phone in a different pocket, specifically a pocket that's hidden and can't be seen by anyone. Personally, I'd recommend even getting a tailor to sew an inside pocket in a jacket or hoodie if you don't already have one. Maybe get it sewn somewhere like on the side where your arm would be hiding the potential bulk of your phone. If you don't like wearing jackets, you could even get creative and get a pocket sewn into your jeans in a place they don't expect, like on your inner thigh or knee. Of course, there's always the option of a waist belt with pockets under your shirt, although I tend to think the bulk of the phone might be obvious with that unless you're wearing a thick jacket, so maybe try my other suggestions. Now, I reckon this measure alone should make a big difference, but let's say the thief ends up being a little more relentless and continues to search for you beyond your main jeans pockets. Let's say they're giving you the full airport security experience. Now, this really is optional advice, as I tend to doubt it would escalate this far. I mean, they could search all your outer jacket pockets, all your visible jeans pockets, front and back, and still not find your phone if you followed one of my suggestions. But let's say they just keep going and they won't stop until they find a phone. Well, if that's what they want, my next piece of advice would be to give it to them. But I'm not talking about your main phone, I'm talking about a second phone. See, in Colombia, there's a great selection of absolute budget smartphones that you could really benefit from in situations like this. I've seen smartphones for as low as $70 US. If you want to be ultra prepared, you could totally just buy one of these, put it in your main pocket, and then have your actual phone in the hidden pocket. Thieves aren't going to expect you to have two phones on you, so if it's a phone they're looking for, just let them find the cheap one and hopefully they won't keep searching you. A couple of things about this. Firstly, to maximize the efficacy of this, you're probably best to buy a smartphone, as if it's an old regular phone, there's a tiny chance that they deduce that you might have something more. I mean, it's unlikely, but again, there are some dirt cheap smartphones in Colombia, so you may as well. And then the other thing is that you'll probably at least want to set up the cheap phone somewhat, just so that if the thief presses the power button, they'll at least see a lock screen instead of some first-time Android setup screen, and then realize they've been duped. Anyway, this whole measure is getting a second phone really isn't essential. At the end of the day, it just comes down to how far you want to go with it. So those were all the tips I had for not getting robbed, but let's say, even after all that, the thief, by some black magic, was able to steal your phone. Well, at this point, I'll be honest, you're probably not going to get it back, but I at least have some tips to make this a probably not instead of a no chance in the world. See, one of the issues that makes it near impossible to get your phone back once stolen is that the thieves turn them off shortly after stealing them to avoid them from being remotely tracked by GPS apps like Google Maps. Obviously, when you turn a phone off, the network can't run in the background anymore, and so it can no longer be tracked. If they didn't turn it off though, you might be able to log into a Google or Apple phone tracker website from a computer back at your accommodation and see where the phone is, which brings me to this cool trick. If you have an Android phone at least, there's actually an app you can download called Cerberus, which grants you the option of enabling a phone shutdown simulation when the power button is pressed. So I can show you how this works. Basically, when you're on the lock screen, you just hold down the power button as you usually would, and then you'll notice here it says power off, which looks pretty legit, so then you just press that, and then now it looks like it's powering off, but it's actually not. It's actually just turning the screen off, and then it'll stay like that basically for 30 seconds. Now, the phone might appear to be off, but in reality, it's still actually on. It's just that the app has blocked the screen from coming on, and you can configure it so that it either comes back on after 30 seconds, or the better option that it stays off indefinitely until you trigger it to come back on remotely from the Cerberus website. So now the thief thinks that they've turned the phone off, but it's still on and therefore trackable. This means that you can track it from a laptop and go to the police and show them where the phone currently is. Whether they'll actually want to help you is a whole other question, but I digress. Now, as I said, Cerberus is only available for Android, and you do actually need to sideload it from an internet browser, as it's not available on Google Play. I can personally vouch for its legitimacy, but if you're very security conscious, that's just something to be aware of. Also, a quick disclaimer, obviously you'll need to have internet access enabled before it gets stolen in order to be able to track it. And I know phone manufacturers advise against having your phone in your pockets with mobile data turned on, as it's a potential health hazard. Obviously, this is something that virtually everyone still does though, so I'll leave that decision to you. You could of course just do it at certain times in certain places if you wanted, but again, it's your choice. Now, my other tip for increasing the chances of recovering your phone is to make use of an eSIM. You might already know, but a lot of recent phones are able to provide mobile data, calls and text without a physical SIM card. You'll still of course have to set up your plan with your phone carrier, but you won't have to have a physical card in the phone for it to work. Now, this option can come in handy, as thieves will often remove the SIM card from the phone soon after stealing it, which is another way to prevent it from being tracked, since up until recently phones were reliant on the SIM card for internet access. With an eSIM though, there is no physical card that they can remove, which means they can't prevent your phone from being tracked this way. If this interests you, you can set this up with a phone carrier in Colombia such as Claro. And if you want more info about that whole process of getting a SIM in Colombia, I've actually done another video on that, which I've linked in the description. Definitely something I'd recommend watching, as there's a lot of requirements for it that you should know about. Anyway, when you pair the eSIM trick with Cerberus's fake shutdown, you've almost fully guarded yourself from the thief disabling your phone's internet. They could still, of course, turn off network access via the lock screen, but if they choose to turn it off instead, then you're in luck. Now, they will likely soon pull the phone apart and sell its parts, but you might have a small window there to track it and report it to the police. It's unlikely you'll have the time to do all that before they sell it, let alone get the police to help you, as they generally just tell you to file a report about it, but you never know. Anyway, that's about all I wanted to talk about today. I honestly think if you follow all of this advice seriously, you're really not going to have any issues, so definitely give it some thought. And if you like this, feel free to stick around for more videos about Colombia. In my next video, I'm going to do something a bit more fun and rank my top 5 Colombian cities to visit. So as always, like, subscribe, bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!